South Africa has sent sniffer dogs and helicopters to cyclone-hit Chimanimani in Zimbabwe to help hunt for more than 300 people who may have been buried alive in mudslides. Last week, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa issued a general call for help from the international community. Flooding caused by Cyclone Idai has killed up to 200 people in Zimbabwe since March the 16th, but there are fears the death toll could be higher. Our correspondent, Ephert Musekiwa, now joins us from Harare. Ephert, good evening and thank you so much for joining us. Now, give us the latest. What exactly is happening and what are the figures that we're sitting on currently?
Good evening, Lulu. Yes, the South African government has indeed sent a delegation or sent some rescue teams, the K9 Search and Rescue Unit. They are also part of the team that came with the Gift of the Givers. They are now in the country. Today they've traveled from Harare. They are now in Manicaland. And they are going to resume their search operations tomorrow morning. They'll be operating in an area called Ngangu. This is a place where they're expected to be more than 312 people that have been reported to be missing, and the search and rescue efforts are going to start from that area tomorrow morning. We understand they couldn't go out into the field today because during the day it was drizzling, and access to the area is only either by air or by road. But the access by road was prevented this afternoon because of the drizzle and the rain that came down last night. But I can also confirm that there have been 99 burials that have been confirmed by the Ministry of Home Affairs, that 99 bodies have been buried, and 12 of those 99 that have been buried were buried in as much as they had not been positively identified, but they were buried nonetheless.
Now, if we're just speaking about the positive identification of these bodies that were already buried, 12 as you mentioned, what exactly is going to happen going forward with the K9 search and rescue teams that South Africa has sent into Zimbabwe for assistance? When they find the bodies, is there a process of identifying those bodies, and going forward, how will the families be informed if identification is not done properly?
Well, like we did indicate that the missing persons, there have been relatives that have reported their relatives missing. So they are also helping in the identification process. But of the 12 bodies that I mentioned, the statement that we got from the Minister of Home Affairs is that they were in a decomposing state that was not, which made identification not so possible, or not so easy. So we do not know how they are going to proceed going forward. What we do know is that they will start their search tomorrow, and once they find bodies, I think if they can be identified, maybe they will be identified. If not, maybe they will just continue with the same process of burying them, and maybe at the end of the whole process, try to identify or try to communicate with the families that they've buried or they've been found to be buried.
Now, if you're in an area where most likely you've seen a lot of devastation and destruction, talk to us, take us through what you've seen currently. And I heard you mention earlier the fact that where you are, it's very dark and getting access to network is very difficult. Take us through that.
Yes, indeed. During the day, I spent pretty much most of the day in a place called Kopa. You remember that this is a place where three rivers meet, and it's one of the areas where there was a lot of destruction. We went there during the day. There was some food distribution that we witnessed. But speaking to some of the residents from this area, they are saying that they do not have the food that is being distributed is not enough, in as much as they've started receiving food aid. Some were actually indicating that they started coming to wait for food as early as Monday, but even up to now they've not received anything, and they are saying now it's very difficult even for them to move. It took us 2 hours to just travel a distance of less than 15 kilometers, so the terrain to get to this area is very difficult. The only easy way or the only quickest way is by air, and right now there are very few aircrafts. When we were there, we only saw 2 helicopters that were flying in, and mostly they were attending to medical medical cases and not really attending or bringing in any food aid. The only food aid that was around was brought in yesterday by a single helicopter from the military. So really, I think the situation is now moving from people were trying to survive. Now they are now hungry. Those that have survived are now faced with hunger. You remember that their livestock was washed away. You remember that their crops were also washed away. So they have nothing to tend to. They have also no one to tend to but the government or well-wishers. So they are hoping that more food aid will come in the coming days.
Ephert, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for joining us with that update. That was SABC correspondent Ephert Musekiwa.